Tony D and Little Joan with I guess you'd call this a screenwriter's rant, talking about Velma again. I know, I know, but there's crazy amount of fallout from this. So let's get into it. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. The links are in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 10 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget Kindle Unlimited is free. So this is one of the articles. There's been many. Yellow Flash did his 6th or 7th video on the subject. I missed this one. So this is about CBR trying to prop up the new Shaggy, who's some people are pointing out that he is a cucked beta male, and that there is a trend in Hollywood of cucking particularly black male characters. I think they're just cucking all the characters, quite frankly. The only difference is that the white guys get to be either bumbling morons or villains, or both, in the case of Scooby-Doo. It's like every feminist is ha 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 getting their revenge in media these days. And in the process, they're just blowing up the space. I think to some degree, part of the strategy is to blow up these IPs and then make way for the great new ones that'll come. Unfortunately, these people think, and this has been a problem in Hollywood since the beginning, a problem with creatives since the beginning. People think, oh, why don't you just make something? Oh, just make another hit. Just make another movie. Just make another TV show. Just make another play or whatever. And what they don't understand is sometimes you do pretty good work and it just doesn't hit for whatever reason. And sometimes you do the most half-ass, dumb job, phoning it in, the most derivative piece of crap, and guess what? It explodes and becomes the biggest thing ever. It's hard to predict what will be a hit, what people will like. Scooby-Doo was a hit. It was a mega hit when you consider that back then, in the early 60s, late 70s, the TV was flooded with Saturday morning cartoons. A lot of them had a gang of kids. A lot of times they had a band. The Scooby Gang never played in a band, I don't think. That was about the only thing they didn't do. And it was just a hit. And all the other ones are not. Josie and the Pussycats is probably a close second, maybe. But you can't compare it to Scooby-Doo. People kind of know Josie and the Pussycats. But Scooby-Doo, oh, they know Scooby-Doo. So it makes sense that for the people who want to replace everything with different icons, that they would first destroy the icons that existed. But what they don't understand is they're incapable of creating icons, because everyone's incapable of creating icons. They don't just get created. What happens is they create 1,000 of them, and one of them, for some reason, rises to the top. Look at the Punisher, okay? So the Punisher, another icon they're trying to destroy, I think, was huge in his day in comics. Kind of made it to movies, sort of. And then eventually TV, I think, probably did the best version. There were book after book after book series about vigilantes. And for whatever reason, just never made it. Even the book series that really they say the Punisher is based on, Mark Bolan, The Executioner, most people don't know that book. So it's a mystery what will make a hit. Sometimes it's just timing. Okay? Just timing. If this revamp of Velma had come out, I don't know, 20 years ago, at a time when maybe there weren't as many outrageous comedies like this vulgar, might have had a shot. Might have had a shot at making this work. Also, if you didn't constantly go after the fans, if you had marketed it like they marketed things back in the 2000s, you might have had a shot. You know, it is, in my view, a terrible, terrible show for multiple reasons. But that is only one of the factors that makes a hit. And there's been a lot of talk of Mindy Kaling, like, what's her deal? Why is she doing this? And these ridiculous, I don't know, conspiracy theories that it's a right-wing psyop now, because apparently people on the left side of politics, because they're the ones mostly responsible for politicizing everything, by the way, mostly responsible for me constantly talking about politics and media, they're responsible for politicizing it, but that doesn't stop them from eating their own. And in this case, they're, for some reason, going after Mindy Kaling. Now, part of it is because the show has flopped. And people on the left side of politics, they only gravitate to things that are popular. Right? Like, I'm sure they would have savaged me if I was more famous. If I was making millions of dollars and I was like J.K. Rowling, raking it in and had amusement parks, oh my God, the stuff they would say about me, they'd be railing against me all day long. But I'm not famous enough for them to bother with me. They won't get anything out of that. What they get out of railing against famous people is their own little bit of fame. They might get mentioned in some left-wing article like, oh, here's someone who said something insightful about how hateful J.K. Rowling is, which seems to be the attack du jour. But in case of Mindy Kaling, part of it is Mindy's just a comedian. Well, not a comedian, more of a comic writer and actor. I don't think she's done stand-up. I'm unaware. She probably could. I mean, she's a talent. Make no mistake, Mindy Kaling has some talent. If you look at her IMDb, you know, there's a reason she's moved up. She was in a lot of stuff. She was in 40-Year-Old Virgin, Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know, these were small parts at the time. These were her early parts. And it doesn't hurt that she's easy on the eyes. But her big break was, of course, in The Office, where she really made her bones. I mean, she was in how many episodes? I think 158 episodes. Most of the run of the show, I think, if not the whole show. She wrote for it. She directed some episodes. I think she produced some episodes. So, and she's smart. She's smart for the most part. For her career, she's smart. Because, you know, her cute looks, she's in her 40s now. Her cute looks will only take her so far now. Now she's at the age where she gets cast as mom. And she's not going to be cast as the romantic lead unless they do some, you know, low-budget romance movie about a middle-aged woman trying to still find love. Or maybe she could pass for mid-30s, early 30s girl who gets married and, you know, plays a role younger than she is. She's still pretty young looking. But that's a very limited trajectory for actresses, unless you break through like to the Meryl Streep level of being a super high-end actress. And she's not that, and I'm not criticizing her for not being that, but she's not, you know, she's not an Oscar person. She's probably not going to star in some dramatic thing that's going to get her an Oscar. She's going the other way. Yeah, she's going into producing, directing, and then once you're in management, you could throw yourself in whatever. It's a smart move. It's what I did, or tried to do, I should say. I would always write myself roles and things, and that would be part and parcel for me joining a, you know, production. I'd throw in a role for myself that, you know, maybe the producer would say no, we don't, we're going to hire regular actors. But if it was, and there's a lot of thing that's fast and loose on a movie set, more often than not they said, yeah, sure, you can play the role. A little trick if you can actually act a little bit. So, you know, she's not incapable of doing stuff. But right now, the left is mad, and I think it's mostly because she failed them. You know, she revamped Velma, but did it in a way that's being perceived as poor. I think it's terrible, but, you know, some other people may like it, I guess. I don't know. It's really getting hammered on Rotten Tomatoes for the audience score, if you trust that. But you can see all her credits. Look, here are her directing credits from The Office. And you might say, well, that's only a few credits, but this is The Office. It was a big show. It's one of the biggest TV shows. That's a huge credit. Huge credit as a director. You know, even though she was a key component of the staff, which is most of the reason she probably got the gig, but doesn't matter. It's a great credit. Her acting credit's a good credit. So she'll always work in TV simply because she's, you know, she's the character from The Office. What's her name? Is it Mindy? I forget. And she, you know, she's got her Valley Girl accent, which plays pretty well. This is her writing credits. So she's got a lot of solid writing credits. I didn't know she wrote for Saturday Night Live. That's a big credit. That was even before The Office, or right around the same time. So, and she did her own TV show called The Mindy Project for 5 years. Now, I didn't see the damn show. It kind of came and went for me, but there's no denying that the studio considers her a real producer. A real producer with real credits, writing, directing. She does it all. So they pull her out, even if she's just a name to be executive producer. She's built a resume for herself. And you could say, well, the Mindy Project wasn't really a hit. It kind of was it. I don't know. 117 episodes. It went, looks like 5 seasons, 5 maybe 6. It's a syndicated show. Ka-ching. That's money. That's the way you do it. Now, she's got failed shows, it looks like. Champions. Looks like that went 1 season. Never Have I Ever. That's still going. That's still live. The Sex Lives of College Girls. I don't know. Is that over? Looks like it might be over. 4 Weddings and a Funeral. That only went 1 season. But she's got one. Actually, she's got 2 hits, technically. The Office and the Mindy Project, I would consider it at least a minor hit. So, yeah, I mean, doing Velma, that's like nothing. That was probably an extra job for her. She's probably got other stuff in the pipeline. I don't know if it'll be on here, but we'll see. Upcoming, Legally Blonde 3. She's writing the screenplay. Now that's, you know, I don't know if the movie will be any good, but she's perfect for that, actually. You know, if she doesn't turn it into Velma, it'll probably be pretty good. She's a funny writer. Her character on The Office was a lot like the character from Legally Blonde. So, yeah. But I'm not defending her Velma show. Her Velma show, I think, is just god-awful. She was Inside Out, and she was on Inside Out and Wreck-It Ralph. So she's done voice acting before, too. So everything lines up for her to be perfect to take the helm of Velma. It's, I think, partly her own arrogance and the arrogance of the people currently running things that created this monstrosity. And because when you're inside everybody's always super positive about the project. There's only certain people on a TV show or a movie that are even allowed to be negative. If you're one of the writers on Velma, like one of the new writers, you probably won't have much to say. You probably can't push back very hard. Like, if I had been hired to write for Velma, I might be able to make tiny objections, but I couldn't push my luck too far. I'd be fired. And I want that sweet, sweet paycheck, right? And you might say, well, that's kind of a sellout. What am I supposed to do? I don't have any institutional power. I'm just trying to survive. So you can partly blame the writers, I guess, but really the people to blame are the people in charge. And in this case, it's Mindy. She's the star. She's the producer, the creator of the series. She decides, yes, we're going to go this way, or I'm going to follow, this writer's advice or my own advice or whomever. And so now what they're doing, and this was covered by Yellow Flash pretty extensively if you want to watch the video, is they're digging into I almost said Velma, Mindy's tweets and former appearances, and anything that sounds even remotely right-wing, they're digging it up and throwing it out there and saying, see, we got to cancel Mindy Kaling. So she made a supportive tweet of J.K. Rowling. Oops. She made some joke on, I think it was Conan O'Brien, about jumping into the lap of a male actor and kissing him without his permission. And Yellow Flash makes the point, well, how would that have looked if it had been a guy doing that to a woman? This was, again, a very common practice with all actors in plays, in movies, in TV shows, because you're trying to capture spontaneity. So you don't want to tell everybody exactly what's going to happen. And that's why improv is so exciting to watch. And if you can capture some of that, not all of it, but some of that on the screen, even within a structured screenplay, it really gives it a little extra spice for the audience. So now personally, I don't mind that at all. But, I mean, Yellow Flash makes a point, right? Today, in today's realm, oh my God, they have intimacy coordinators. And it would only take one incident for it. Oh my God, we got shut down the production. Look at what they did to Bill Murray, right? Who knows what he did exactly? He was probably just goofing around. Probably just trying to get comfortable with his co-star. I don't know. Because, again, if you're playing a couple on screen, you have to have a body language that indicates you're a couple, that you've been intimate, that you hang all over each other, because that's what couples do, right? You can tell if you watch people's body language if they've been together. It's a world of difference between people who just met on a date, who have been dating for a few months, who have been dating for a few years, who have been living together, who are married. They just have a different body language. And then people who are divorced, they have a different body language too. Might be like a tension. So, do I blame Mindy for doing that? Of course not. But what I would blame is if that same show, that same production, went after a male cast member for basically doing the same thing. Oh, we're doing this scene where you greet your girlfriend, and then the actor just goes in and kisses her, and he just says, well, I just thought in that moment my character would kiss you. The actress could go right to HR, and that would be the end of him these days. Probably. Maybe not, but quite possibly. Frank Langella, same thing. I think he got Me Too for similar reasons. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know for sure, but it sounds that way to me. So, if you have intimacy coordinators and you have to approve the kind of touching, the amount of touching, the time, the kiss, How's that work for your spontaneity? It just doesn't work. Anyhow, but they can crucify Mindy for that because they can. Because it's another one of these arbitrary rules. It makes no sense. No one's really thought about it. And 15 years ago, no one cared. No one was getting Me Too'd over a spontaneous kiss on the set. Now, yeah, that's a real issue. Because leftist. So, should Mindy Kaling be canceled? No. But I don't think you should watch Velma. And part of what's driving this train is because people won't stop talking about it, which I'm fine with. Because I thought about it a little more, and at first I thought, yeah, Razor Fist has a point. Giving all these shows and whatnot attention keeps them on the internet, keeps people talking, keeps them in production. I want them to put this in production again because I want the people involved, especially the management at Warner Brothers, to keep losing money until they learn their lesson. Until they finally go, no, we can't keep doing this. So the next time, because this was infinitely avoidable, okay? It would have taken literally one person to come in there, read the script. That's all you needed to do. You didn't even have to produce the thing. Just have the studio come in, produce the script, look at the script, and say, no. And when asked why no? Well, it's very simple. Your character's very unlikable. Make her likable or forget it. Now, if you were forced to make Velma likable, then some of that viciousness would be gone from the show. And it would probably be doing okay. It wouldn't be talked about as much as it is, but okay, sure. Because I'm pretty sure, although I don't have numbers to back it up, but I'm pretty sure hate clicks aren't enough to make the money on this thing. Animation is typically very expensive. When it was on regular network TV, it would have to be showed 10 times to make its money back. Now that cost has been cut down considerably with computers, but it's still a high cost. You still have to hire more people than in a live action TV show. In a live action TV show, you don't need artists, animators, a lot of the equivalent of CGI guys for the animators. You just wouldn't need any of those people. You would just shoot the damn thing. Now, you would also need costume people and a couple of extra other people, but not as many as with animation. With animation, you need at least a lot of artists. They send it to, I don't know, Korea to be colored like the Simpsons were. That's another expense. So I don't think hate clicks could possibly pay the bills here. Also, it's on a streaming service, and the streaming service, at least for me, only makes its money for subscriptions. And I'm not even paying for mine. So you can't tell me this show made money. Unless there's some merchandise, but who would buy this merchandise? Maybe that was a plan. Certainly if the show was a hit, there'd be a whole new line of merchandise. A different Shaggy, a different Velma, updated Fred and Daphne. So the other rumor, of course, is that Scooby is coming to the show in the form of another character who's the black girlfriend of Shaggy, Scooby spelled with an I. Now, some of that rumor has been dispelled by Clownfish, although nobody's sure if it's real or not. There is definitely another character who Shaggy gets or Norbert or Norville or whatever his name is, gets he definitely gets a girlfriend. There's definitely another character. Another viewer said her name is Gigi. Maybe her nickname is Scooby. I don't know. Or maybe they've already gone back and just changed it because, somebody at the studio went, are you out of your mind? Finally, one of the adults stepped up and said, no. But from Mindy's perspective, her money is locked in. She's going to be paid. Creator, producer, actress, whatever the budget, it's spent. It's done. 10 episodes done. So, who knows? It's possible she doesn't want to do a second season. And she trashed her own show to get out of her contract. Because they'll never do a second season of this now. I poisoned the well. Maybe it's just a terrible contract, or she's got something better in the pipeline. She needs to get out of this. Sometimes that happens. And sometimes studios will hold you to a contract just to screw over the other studio because they want you and they're not sitting around being part of a bidding war just for your career. They're there to make money. If you want an example, you got Pierce Bronson, right? There was a point at which he could have earlier played James Bond, but they held him to his I think it was NBC held him to a contract, made him do like another season of Remington Steele, something like that. And then it took a few more years before they actually hired him as James Bond. So, yeah, it could be that. It could just be that it's a terrible show. Mindy, is trying to be a comedian and trying to be outrageous and is trying to take the attitude F everybody. And that's an attitude that comedians often have. But at the same time, you have to have an audience. You have to have a large group of people who agree with you and go, yes, you're sticking it to the man. Who is Velma sticking it to? Who is Mindy sticking it to? I guess you could argue white cis males, because that seems to be the angle of the show. But that would assume that there is a large audience of people who are like, yeah, I've been waiting for Velma to stick it to the white guys. Where are they? That kind of meanness just, no. It just doesn't exist in any kind of quantity. There's some. I'm sure there's some audience out there. Most of them probably don't watch cartoons. Most of them are college students, too busy taking drugs, getting laid, going to protest. You think they're watching Velma for their politics? This is the completely wrong audience for that. Maybe there's an audience somewhere for a show like that in a corner of the internet or on network TV or even on one of these streaming services. Maybe Hulu would produce it. They're doing the 1619 project. But for a IP like Scooby-Doo? No. Everybody loves Scooby-Doo. Even the people who are sort of mean and angry like that, even some of them love Scooby-Doo the way it is. Because it's something that's nostalgic from childhood, and peeing all over it gets you nothing. Gets you absolutely nothing. I can't even think of an IP like that people would enjoy you destroying. Maybe you could argue like something like He-Man. If they had done He-Man as a comedy, because He-Man, in my view, was kind of an empty character, kind of stupid, just basically there to sell toys. There's probably a couple of IPs, like the characters from Mask. Right? I'm sure there's a handful of guys who really love the Mask characters, but really they were just another toy line, in my view. I mean, the Adult Swim guys did it with C-Lab, right? C-Lab was great. But that was okay because no one remembered what the hell C-Lab was. I don't know, what did they do? Like a season, if that, of the show? And they took a bunch of old footage and just revamped it? But Scooby-Doo, it was current. You can't do it to Scooby-Doo. If Scooby-Doo had faded from memory back in the 70s, and then 40 years later you dig it up, maybe. I mean, you could do it to my old favorite cartoon, or one of them, for Saturday morning was Thundar the Barbarian. Very few people remember this cartoon. It only went a season or two, maybe 3. Great show. Always thought, it'd be great to bring that back. You could have brought that back as a comedy, adult comedy, Would the fans be mad? Well, I maybe I'd be a little annoyed that they ruined Thundar the Barbarian, but I'd also be like, well, nobody else knows what the hell it is. This isn't the way it was, but you know, at the same time, I'd be like, well, what are you going to do with it? Doing it to Scooby-Doo just ruins a current IP. I mean, they had a movie completely finished that they haven't released. Now, maybe it's bad. Maybe it's even worse than this, but I kind of think it's just the same old thing. Maybe this is a ploy to, again, make the IP so toxic that people are screaming for the old IP to go back, and then they'll re-release that movie. I think they should. They'll release that movie that they shelved, and everybody will be like, oh, this is great. This is the Scooby I remember. I mean, that could be a strategy. It seems like an expensive one, though. Yeah, it seems like a very expensive one. It seems to me, again, they should have just given Mindy a cartoon show and say, go ahead, go nuts. You could do a parody of Scooby-Doo, but, you can't actually use the Scooby-Doo characters. Maybe you could be in the Scooby-Doo universe. You could see them. You could interact with them a little bit. You couldn't harm them. You couldn't discredit them. That would have worked. She could have lived in a universe in which Scooby-Doo and Josie and the Pussycats and all their IPs were in the same town. And she was the one character who couldn't find a mystery, couldn't find a band, couldn't find, was just sort of put upon, and she was jealous of all them and whatever. Instead, we got this mean sort of retread of the Scooby Gang. And I just don't think it was a good idea. Now, Yellow Flash is like, oh, I think this is the end of her career. I don't think it's the end of her career at all. And not because, people fail upwards in Hollywood. Yeah, they kind of do. But you can see her track record. And Hollywood doesn't just look at the last thing you did, although that's a huge factor. I mean, this is definitely going to set her back, I think. But will they give her more shows? Oh, absolutely. But what they'll probably do is say, "Oh yeah, we don't want you on any more cartoons. You go back to what you're good at." And she'll probably have to go back to something like The Office or a character like The Office. In fact, the classic thing to pitch to someone like Mindy Kaling would be a spin-off series for her Office character, right? She's struggling to get a greenlit project, and NBC comes to her like, well, we would greenlight a new Kelly, that's her name, a new Kelly Kapoor series. And she'd probably be like, oh, come on, I've got this new series. Well, just do the same kind of humor, but you could do it with Kelly. And then you could have the Office characters appear, all the side ones that need work and we don't have to pay a lot of money for. That's probably coming. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the works. I think I heard rumors that one or two of the Office cast members pitched a spin-off series like that. They tried to do one with Dwight. And it ended up an episode of The Office. Didn't really work out. So, yeah, she'll always work. She'll absolutely always work. She'll always be in the mix. But, yeah, I mean, he might be right in the sense that, yeah, they might be pulling back and saying, well, Mindy, we're not going to greenlight everything. We got to look a little harder at your projects before we greenlight them. It doesn't hurt that everybody's gone woke and she's a person of color and that's all happening now. But they can still approve episodes or projects for her and then not give her any power to do anything. That happens too. Okay, we want you to work on this project and be a producer. Okay, what do I do? Well, we just really need your name. The showrunners, they'll be doing the work and you just, you can kind of supervise. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't think her career is going to slow down much But yeah, she might take a hit on this if it continues to give them bad press. If they're forced to cancel it, I don't know. If this Scooby rumor is true, and it's looking less likely, that could be really bad. The backlash from that could be pretty devastating, because that would be like sort of, I mean, at this point, if another thing happens on this stupid show, and not all the episodes have come out yet, something so bad like that happened, that even the leftists were just outraged by what they've done on this show, they could go and say, you know what, we're just gonna cancel this thing before we air the rest of the episodes. That would be a new low. That would be worse than She-Hulk. Is it worse than She-Hulk? Yellow Flash asked that question. Man, it's hard to say. They're both pretty close. It's definitely worse than Batwoman, because at least Batwoman, as opposed to She-Hulk in this show, had a physics that was okay. The She-Hulk, I guess you could say, the physics in that only were strained. They weren't broken. In this, they're completely ignored, I think. At least in that first episode I saw. And I haven't even watched the rest of the episodes. Don't ask me. But here I am talking about it. Velma. Hopefully this will be the last video. Hopefully we could all get past our national nightmare. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. Thanks to all who came out to the Pennsville Library. That wasn't the historical one, by the way, that I thought I was doing. That one's coming up later. I forget which historical library it was, but it still was a nice library. And the people were very kind. I will be doing the next signing at Whim's Brewery on Saturday. That's in Atco, and we'll see you in the next one.